I'm Amy Angel, and this is my town, Jacksonville, Alabama. Today, I'm talking with Ken Bodiford, and he is the Director of Bands at Jacksonville State University. Thank you for taking out time to speak with us today.
Thank you for coming out.
All right. So, very few things about Jacksonville State make me more proud than when I hear the Southerners play, because it is just something that our whole community can take such pride in. Just from the time the drums come out in the fall till, I guess it's earlier than in the fall, but when that kettle drum fires up is when, okay, school's back in session. Yeah. And I just like for you to just tell us a little bit more about what's so special about your program. What makes your program special?
Well, we're very excited the fact that we have such good numbers. For a school that's the size of JSU, we often field a band that's larger than most of the SEC schools in the country.
Oh, wow.
So we take a lot of pride in that. And we have a special style that kind of makes us a little different from other college bands. We are more of a what they call drum and bugle corps style, which means we have more of a big main production that we put together every year rather than a bunch of small shows.
Okay.
And so we're able to really hone in on that show and make it as good as we possibly can.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll change segments of it, from week to week so that there's something different.
It does always seem new. Yeah.
And we try to do something a little different, but the main body of our show is always one big production. And we take that on the road for our exhibitions where we do most of our recruiting.
Okay. So tell us about some of the key players that are involved in your program.
Well, we're very fortunate that we've had our crew together for several years. My assistant directors, Mr. Clint Gillespie, he is predominantly over the percussion studio here in the music department, and he works a lot with the Marching Southerners drum line, as well as the whole program. But he writes all the percussion music, and he really zeroes in on the percussion section.
Oh, he writes it?
He writes all of our percussion
music.
Yeah,
okay.
He's one of the most incredible percussionists I've ever met.
Awesome.
Very talented. And he spends a lot of his time with that drum line. And so that's one reason that the drum line is so good, because they have that instructor that's with them day in and day out.
Oh, wow.
We also have Mr. Jeremy Stovall. He's one of our other assistants, and he, his main focus is a lot with the visual program and also helping with the music side of things. We all kind of team teach the Southerners together during rehearsals. And both he and Mr. Gillespie conduct a concert band as well, outside of the Marching Southerners. And then we have Mr. Rodney Bailey, who's been with me for 20 years. He's actually a professor in the English department, and he's the magic behind all of our color guard. When you see the flags, the rifles, and sabers, and the big endings of our show, he coordinates all of that to make that what it is. And then last but not least, Miss Noelle Stovall. She recently married Jeremy Stovall, one of our assistants. She's our coordinator for our marching ballerinas.
Okay.
And she's a former ballerina. She was a former head ballerina. So she knows the ins and outs of the marching ballerinas. And she works with them both on their traditional dance when you see them at pregame wearing the original ballerina uniform from 1956. And she also works with them on their modern, when they're in their modern costume. That's more of a modern dance for our exhibition show.
Cool. Okay. So what besides, just the games that happen on Saturdays in our community, how can the city of Jacksonville get involved in things that the band is doing?
Well, we sponsor 2 big marching band competitions here at the university. And of course, we want to welcome out the community to come and watch these students perform. We have one on October the 10th, which is the Bands of America competition. This is a band competition organization that comes to JSU, and we kind of host them. and they bring in bands from all over the country.
Cool.
This year we have bands coming in from Texas, from Rhode Island, from Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, and they're all coming here to JSU to compete for the national championships that they will go to later in the year.
And these are high school?
These are all high school students.
Oh, that's very neat.
And so we sponsor one of the big regional competitions, and that's here at Jack State. And then the following weekend, on October the 17th, we sponsor our own contest. It's called the JSU Contest of Champions. And right now we've got over 20 bands that are registered, that have registered, and they're from all over the Southeast, from Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, and they come out to our contest, and we'll run that here at JSU all day long, and then have the award ceremony in the evenings.
And are you, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's a wonderful recruiting tool.
That's what I was about to say. Are you guys recruiting while this is going on?
Definitely. And the Southerners, at the end of the day, we always do a big performance, our exhibition performance. So we've got a captive audience, of 12 to 15,000 high school band students on each weekend. And it's just, it's a phenomenal recruiting tool for us because we get the kids on our campus,
right,
and then they get a front row seat to see the Southerners perform.
That's amazing. That's very smart.
Yeah. So those are two of our biggest recruiting weekends that we have.
Okay.
Community, we have the very best fans in the world. We go to these other colleges when we play them in football, and when the bands go on the field, we'll watch their home crowd just leave and go to the concession stand and really not think much about the band. But here at Jack State, nobody leaves their seat.
No.
And
Yeah.
I don't think our community realizes how much we appreciate, the respect that they give to our program.
That's
and it's
nice.
It's such an honor to have those kind of fans here at JSU.
Well, you guys earn every bit of that.
Well,
so.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Game when you invite the alumni back and let them participate, whether it's like a ballerina from 5 years ago to the 80-year-old director, band director. Tell us about that. That's a neat thing.
Yeah, that's probably one of our most special weekends of the fall when we have the Southerners reunion. And I want to back up a little bit and say a few words about some of our charter members. We still have people that were in the very first Marching Southerners back in 1956. And there's a group of them that comes out every band camp, and
wow.
they are here for our opening ceremony, and they get up and speak and tell all the freshmen about what the band was like back in the 50s when the band first started, and just having that kind of history still living and able to come back and talk to the kids about their heritage. It's just incredible, and then it makes the kids look forward to that weekend every year when we have all of our alumni come back, and we usually have 500 or 600 alumni every year that come back
really?
To our reunion. And we turn it into a 2-day event. We have a big banquet on Friday night, and then we'd have a rehearsal on Saturday morning, and then they perform with the Southerners at halftime at the game.
That's so cool. All I knew was about, who was at the game, so I never knew there was all that went into it. That's so
all of that goes on behind the scenes.
That is cool.
If you notice, like, when the marching ballerinas perform, you'll see them in different groups, and they're in different decades. Like you have the ladies that marched in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s.
Oh, that's neat.
And so that's why they're all doing different dances to Quilting Party, because that's one piece of music that stayed consistent almost all the way back to the 50s. The ladies in the 50s, they didn't have that piece, but from the late 60s on, Quilting Party has always been one of our standards that the band has always played. So you'll see each decade doing their dance from their era, and that's why they're all doing different things.
Very cool. I thought they just didn't know it.
No.
I'm impressed.
They're doing their own thing. We perform at the Jacksonville Christmas Parade every year for our community. And one of my favorite things, a lot of our students, Kappa Kappa Psi, one of the band fraternities, they get together a group of students every Friday night, and they go out to a different local high school football game. And they will join and set up in the stands with like Jacksonville High School one weekend.
Oh, wow.
The next weekend it would be White Plains, then maybe Piedmont or Oxford, or they just go to a different high school game, and we sit up in the stands and play their stand music with that high school band.
Cool.
So all of a sudden, it may double the size of their high school band for that weekend.
Oh, that's really neat.
And that's been a really successful program to recruit, and I think the fans really like it.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. That's nice. All right, well, as we had discussed earlier, usually there's something new, something different every year. So what is something new and exciting we can expect this year?
Well, this year the Southerners will have a complete new look whenever you see them on the field. Every 10 years we usually get new uniforms. That's about as long as we can make them last with all the wear and tear that they get. But this year we kind of use the uniform as a springboard for our actual show that we've designed. And the show is called Celebration, and it's in celebration of all the new things happening at JSU this year. We got a new president. You know, we're in the process of getting a new athletic director, and we got new band uniforms. So there's just a lot of new things happening this year. So this show is just celebrating the heritage of JSU and all of the new things that are happening. And you'll notice with the new uniform, we took all of the old uniforms for the past 7 decades or 6 decades, and we took a little piece from those uniforms, and we got the designer to put all of those into one new design for our uniform. So now every decade, like somebody from the 60s can say, oh, that's from my era, or that's from my era in the 70s. In the 80s, we had that collar. So we kind of used something from every past uniform we've had into the new jacket. And it's turned out beautifully.
I just love how much thought goes into everything, from the music to the dance to the, to now the uniform. That's so impressive.
You know, I think that's one thing that's made our program be so strong through the years, because we do try to keep that tie of our heritage in everything that we do.
That's so cool.
And it really means a lot to all of us, and it kind of instills that loyalty to the new students, as they go through the program.
That's amazing. Well, just thank you so much for enriching our town with what you guys do. It's just it's awe-inspiring. It's breathtaking. Like you said, they marched in the Christmas parade. They've marched by, and you see grown men crying. It's few and far between that you'll see a grown man cry at a band, but the Southerners do it. So it's awesome.
Well, I tell you, it's a pleasure.
We are